The conversation right now is Red Alert Politics editor Ron Meyer. Ron, good to see you. Thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks, Maria. Thanks for having me on.
What did you think of the president's speech last night?
Well, I feel like he's really just trying to win a war of talking points. I mean, we heard that there's no new action. I feel like it was just another speech, and that's kind of the unfortunate thing. You know, maybe people don't want to send a lot of troops overseas, but I think that they were looking for some sort of new approach, some sort of new dynamic. I mean, really the only thing that might have come out yesterday is that he basically is stopping his focus on Assad. Instead of trying to fight on both sides of this war, fight against Assad, fight against ISIS, he's now saying he's united about trying to just destroy ISIS. But the question is how, and we really didn't see any new way on how. And I think that's what he's struggling to answer. That's what the Republican presidential candidates jumped him for.
Yeah, I mean, Morgan, he certainly spent enough time, as well as talking about terrorism, on political correctness and not, you know, making sure that people are not speaking and saying things to upset good Muslims out there.
Which is fine, but I think what the American people are actually looking for is a strategy to defeat ISIS. And gun control is a completely separate conversation in my mind. The discussion should be, what are we doing in Syria? What are we doing in Iraq? We've seen this festering for 4 years. And so far, the only thing that I heard last night was that we're going to continue airstrikes and working with our allies.
Yeah, Dagen, what do you think?
What you didn't hear is the vast majority of the sorties being flown to fight ISIS. There are no bombs being dropped, roughly 80% by one estimation. Here's what you didn't hear, that the NSA program of metadata collection that expired at the end of November now could potentially be hampering the FBI investigation because they can't now go back and get 5 years worth of phone records. There is a lot that you didn't hear from the president,
right.
And you don't necessarily have to come out and commit ground troops.
Go ahead, Ron. Do you want to jump in here?
Well, I was going to say, I really think we have to be, I think the Republican Party really has to be very careful here. You know, Marco Rubio and Chris Christie have been saying, just basically what Dagen just said, that the NSA reform is actually hampering the investigation. I mean, I couldn't disagree more. Right now, the current law, the law that was passed, the NSA reform, says that we just have to get a normal warrant. You have to go through a Fourth Amendment process, and you can have any access you want to the records that are kept by the phone companies. I don't think that's unreasonable.
They're only keeping 18 months to 2 years of phone records. It used to be 5. That's a difference, correct?
Well, I don't think this investigation is going 5 years back. We have, listen. Well,
let me finish my point. I know the Republican argument that the NSA metadata collection program existed and these terrorists did not get caught. I have heard I've heard the argument from libertarians and the Democrats, but I think that that's something that needs to be addressed going forward. Like, do our law enforcement agencies have the tools that they need to investigate? Yeah.
Well, and I think this is a really important debate. I think this is what, unfortunately, as a younger Republican, as someone, you know, we're a younger millennial-focused publication, what I've seen is with this debate, we're starting to lose young people. Marco Rubio, our most promising candidate for the next generation, he's come out as this big war hawk, and folks on campus and folks in the young professional world aren't reacting well to it, because I don't think we want to see another war in the Middle East. We don't want to see someone who wants to collect all of our phone records.
I don't know if we want to see it or not, but it's coming.
Well, maybe I don't think we haven't seen any definitive proof. We haven't seen any definitive proof.
Maybe it's time to stop
Go ahead,
Maybe it's time to stop telling people in this country what they want to hear and tell them what they need to hear.
Okay, Ron, what were you saying now? Go ahead, Ron, speak.
Well, I was just saying that if we saw some definitive proof that what the NSA was doing and all the bulk data collection was working, I think it'd be a different story. And I'm not saying, here's the thing, I think Ted Cruz has been amazing. Usually he's not very nuanced and he doesn't really speak well to the middle. On this issue, he's been great because he said, you know what, you can be strong without having your hands in all the different cookie jars. I think that's a good message, that we can still be strong. We can make sure that we're repairing the military where Obama's weakened us, but at the same time, make sure we're not getting overextended. Make sure that we're not doing more harm than good in the actions we're taking.
And you think you can do both of those things, Ron? I mean, you're sort of talking out of both sides of your mouth.
Well, I think that some people are laying out that vision, that you could both be strong and not have to be involved in Syria with ground troops.
Let me say that again. Hold on. Yeah. Be strong and not be involved in ground troops in Syria. Mike Murphy, let me get your take on this. Jump in here.
Yeah, so I think that we need to have ground troops in Syria because we need to defend what's going on here in this country, because it's not just what's happening in Syria, right? It's now that it's coming into our borders, onto our land. So for me, the biggest takeaway from President Obama's speech last night was that he seemed apologetic. He seemed like he wanted to apologize for the Muslim community, which I think is completely off base, and I think that's at the root of the problem we have here. We do need need new leadership, and the focus is we're at war right now with radical Muslims. If he won't say it, I will. We need people to stand up and say that. Whether it's in Syria or here in this country, we need to be ready to defend ourselves versus these people who want to kill us.
They're trying very hard not to, to make the distinction of Islam versus extremists, that we're not fighting this religion. I mean, and Hillary Clinton's doing the same thing.
After that speech last night, do you really think that the biggest threat to the United States is anti-Muslim sentiment? Right. And not terrorism.
Or that gun control is the answer. How dumb is that?
Well, let's hear a little about that. I'm sorry, Morgan. Let's hear a little about that because we wanted to show the president's commentary on gun control. Get your take on this. Listen to this, Ron.
Congress should act to make sure no one on a no-fly list is able to buy a gun. What could possibly be the argument for allowing a terrorist suspect to buy a semi-automatic weapon? This is a matter of national security.
Morgan Ortega.
Listen, I think that you can have a gun control debate, but it doesn't need to be in the discussion of the war on terrorism, what we're doing here at home. So I think it's a complete sideshow, and I think when you don't have command and control of the issue, what do? You deflect to something else. You deflect attention away from the fact that he's had a pretty failed administration when it comes to his foreign policy on terror.
Well, Morgan Ortega said it right. Go ahead, Ron.
Well, I was going to say, if you look at the two big priorities that he's tried to lay out for the rest of his administration, it's global warming and gun control. So he tries to use any issue, even something as, I mean, he should have had that speech. The speech could have been a unity speech. He could have tried to unite the country, but then he threw this in there. Whatever it is, whatever the issue, he's trying to get back to his two big issues to finish off his term. And I think that's unfortunate, that even in a speech like this, his third address from the Oval Office, he's going to use a speech like this to divide the country on this issue. And I think it's unfortunate.
To use this situation, this event, this terrorism, as a reason to push through more of his policies is just unbelievable.
It is, and it's kind of what we've come to expect. But really, I was hoping when this was scheduled that we were going to actually get the truth, that the president was going to come out and really shift his focus a little bit. And we just got more of the same last night. It's very disappointing.
This is his truth. This is his truth. He believes all of this. And the biggest problem for him is he has been so deaf in terms of the terror threat, in his response after the Paris attacks, what he was saying about threats here in the United States before the San Bernardino murder.
Well, he was totally out of it when he came from Malaysia.
He had a long road to walk last night to get the American people on his side, and it didn't happen. I
think that's right. That's great analysis. Ron Meyer, thanks very much for joining us and weighing in. We appreciate it. We'll see you soon, sir.